Today I have the carburetor back on. I've changed the oil on this, and I cleaned up under the motor a little bit while the carb was off. So I will be changing the points, setting the timing, adjusting the carburetor. So first thing we'll have to do to get to the points is there's two clips on the distributor, one on the back, one on the front. Pop them off, pull the distributor up out of the way. Sometimes you have to remove a few plug wires. If you do, make sure you mark them and they go back exactly where they came off, because then if you don't, you'll have to go through the firing order and try to figure out where it goes. Pull off the rotor. I'm replacing that as well. It just slides right off. Takes two free head screws and a small wrench to get the
We've got the building under control, but I got a small brush box. Here, look, see if you got a number for a Kenny Boy. He's going home this resident.
Replace over the old ones. Make sure they're the same. They are.
That'll be 10-4 County. 10-4. 1553.
Okay, here's your points. You got a flathead screw here, flathead screw here to take them off. And you got the nut here where the wire from the coil and the point from the condenser go. You'll see there's a notch right here. When this is mounted in there on that plate, there's another notch on it. You can take a screwdriver and adjust them to adjust the gap when they're open right there. Okay, I have a 5/16 wrench here. Does it fit? Yes. So I loosen the nut up a little bit. It's kind of a pain to get to. Pull the coil wire off. Or I'm sorry, pull the condenser wire off of it. It looks like, oh, there we go. Now I got the wire from the coil. That is a ground from the coil. So that wire to these points will come from the ground side of the coil. Now one thing I need to do is get these points in the highest lobe where they're open. If you can see that well down in there, you can see the points. There's lobes here. Since it's a V8 engine, it has 8 lobes, and you want to get it on a high lobe where the points are open. It appears I have it on a high lobe, but the points are not opening very far at all, so they might be misadjusted. Now pull these old points out, and probably can't see it, but if I open them up, the contacts here and here, they look corroded and dirty. In a case like that, if you were stuck on the side of the road, points weren't firing very well, you could take a little file or something and clean those off. And say if they were way out of adjustment, the engine wouldn't run. We used to take old matchbook cover and put in between there, adjust them, and that'll get you going enough to get you home. On the bottom of these, there's a peg there that fits in the hole in the distributor plate, so you want to make sure you get that in place, which when everything's in place they'll go. The coil and condenser wire has a U-shaped connector that just slides in there. You tighten it down. You don't have to take that nut off all the way unless it's been modified or messed with. Before I put them on, I loosen up my 5/16 nut where the wires connect a little bit, not enough so it'll fall off on you. You lose it and you're screwed. The first thing is to set them in place. Got notches down in the hole. And on these, on one of the screws, there's also a ground wire where the screw goes in. You want to make sure you connect that back up. And sometimes it can be a little pain in the butt to get these in there and get them started. Like this one is being. You don't have a lot of room to work with there, really. Okay, that one's started. I'm just going to get started for now and get the other one started. Okay, both of them are started. I just tighten them down snug enough to hold them in place where I can take my screwdriver in that notch and slide them back and forth. These set at 17 thousandths of an inch. So I put this between the contacts of the points. I don't know if you can see that very well or not, but I have the feeler gauge between the contacts and my notches there to move them in and out. What I want to do is get that where that feeler gauge just has a little drag on those contact points and tighten them down, and that will get it where it will run for me. It's a little bit tight, so I'll open them up just a tad. Okay, gonna leave my feeler gauge right there. Tighten down, make sure that doesn't move as I'm doing this. Take the feeler gauge. Okay. It's a little bit tight, so I could loosen it up a little. But I'm going to be using a dwell meter on this. When you set the dwell, you're basically setting your points too. If you don't have a dwell meter, you just get your points close enough where they'll work and go from there. Like I said, you can get them the width of a matchbook cover, the old matchbook covers like we used to have, and they'll usually run in that at that gap enough to get you to where you can use a feeler gauge or something on them to get the correct gap. Okay, now holding those two wires in there, take my 5/16 wrench and tighten them down. There we go. Snug. You don't want to over tighten, you don't want to strip bolts. Normally these would be replaced in a pair, the condenser and the points. But before this was parked, it had new points and condenser and everything in it. I didn't see any sign of arcing, so I think looks like the condenser's in good shape. It's working. I don't see a reason to replace it right now. Most people would, but for now we're going to leave that alone. What the condenser does, condenser stores electricity in it. When these points are open, this coil, when it breaks that when it's grounded, it's charging it up. When those points break that ground, it causes a spark. That spark comes through the coil wire, through this rotor, which coil wire go there, into the rotor. That'll spark to whatever spark plug it's lined up to and fire that cylinder. Okay, the rotor is in place.